He has glass eyes that seem to follow you in the dark, a stitched smile, as if he knows something you don't. Behind the glass of a museum in Florida, he watches. He waits. His name is Robert. But make no mistake, this is no ordinary toy. He's been blamed for accidents, heart attacks, divorces, firings, and even deaths. They say those who disrespect him pay the price, that he curses those who laugh, who take photos without permission, or those who dare doubt what he truly is. Today on Archives of Fear, you will uncover the true story that inspired the creation of Chucky. Prepare to dive into one of the most disturbing cases of modern occultism, Robert the Doll, and the curse that has haunted him since the day he first opened his eyes. The story begins in 1904 in Key West, Florida. Robert was a gift. The Otto family received the strange, almost life-sized doll as a present for little Robert Eugene Otto, lovingly called Gene. But there are darker versions of this origin. Some say the doll was given by a Bahamian servant who was fired after being accused of practicing witchcraft. Before she left, she allegedly performed a ritual, sealing something evil inside the toy. Robert was made of straw, old fabric, button eyes, and a mysterious expression. Gene immediately fancied him, even giving him his own name, Robert. The doll wore custom clothes, and Gene talked to him daily. Nothing unusual until his parents began hearing a second voice responding. A deep voice, not from a child's throat. One day, Gene's mother rushed upstairs after hearing screams. The door was locked. When she finally got in, the furniture was overturned, toys were everywhere, and Gene was curled in a corner, shaking. He muttered just one sentence. It was Robert. He got mad. Neighbors also reported strange things. A child in white seen running through the house, but Gene was an only child. Some believe the spirit trapped in the doll took a human form, a childlike presence, but malevolent. Over time, Gene became socially withdrawn. He preferred hours with the doll over playing with other kids. Modern psychologists suggest Robert may have been a projection of repressed trauma, or maybe something worse. Some believe the bond between Gene and Robert created a psychic link that was hard to break. As Gene entered adolescence, Robert's presence seemed to deepen its grip. Disturbances became more intense. Drawers emptied on their own, lights flickered without reason, and cold spots would appear in rooms where Robert was kept. Gene's family grew increasingly disturbed. Gene's father once claimed he saw Robert sitting at the top of the stairs when he had just locked him in a trunk minutes earlier. Another day, a visiting aunt insisted they get rid of the doll. That night, she suffered a heart attack in her sleep. Gene would still insist Robert doesn't like to be friendly. As he grew into adulthood, Gene moved out, but when his parents passed away, he inherited the old house and brought Robert back with him. That's when things took an even darker turn. Gene's wife, Anne, hated the doll. She claimed she would find Robert sitting in different positions, his head turned slightly, as if watching her. Once, she found claw marks on the walls of their bedroom, scratches too high for a pet and too small for a man. One evening, a neighbor claimed she saw Gene arguing loudly in the upstairs studio. She assumed it was a marital dispute, until Gene appeared at the window, completely alone. Later, Gene admitted, Robert didn't agree with my painting. Their marriage began to deteriorate. Anne complained of sleepless nights, hearing soft tapping against the door or giggles in the hallway. She often left the house, terrified. Gene, however, seemed entranced by Robert, as if the doll were more than a relic, more like a companion he couldn't live without. After Gene died in 1974, the house was purchased by a new family. A 10-year-old girl discovered Robert in the attic and, delighted, took him to her room. But the nightmares began almost immediately. She claimed Robert moved during the night, that he whispered her name, that his expression changed when she wasn't looking. Her parents, skeptics at first, began noticing strange occurrences. Doors opening on their own, items vanishing only to be found in impossible places. The girl's behavior shifted. Once cheerful, she became anxious, prone to sudden fits of rage or silence. Eventually, she screamed and begged them to take Robert away. Terrified, the family donated the doll to the East Martello Museum in Key West. The museum placed Robert in a climate-controlled glass case, but the activity didn't stop. Visitors began reporting nausea, dizziness, and sudden camera failures when approaching Robert. Those who mocked him, took photos without asking, or disrespected him in any way often faced bizarre misfortunes shortly after. Some lost jobs, others faced sudden deaths in the family, accidents, illnesses. Each one felt compelled to write Robert a letter, begging forgiveness. The museum now holds hundreds of these letters. They're posted on the walls behind his case. Some people even send offerings, sweets, toys, or protective charms, hoping to appease the doll and break the streak of bad luck. Even staff at the museum speak of Robert in hushed tones. One night guard quit after hearing Robert giggle in the dead of night. Another swore he saw the doll's head tilt slowly, even though no one was around. The legend of Robert doesn't just haunt Florida. It has influenced horror worldwide. In the late 1980s, his story inspired screenwriter Don Mancini to create Child's Play, giving birth to the infamous Chucky. Though stylized and fictional, many elements, like the cursed doll, the child connection, and the evil within, reflect Robert's tale. But Robert goes beyond Hollywood. He's been featured in numerous documentaries, books, podcasts, and YouTube videos. Paranormal investigators travel from around the world to study him, and many leave disturbed. The 2015 film Robert the Doll brought his story back into the spotlight, spawning sequels that explore the psychology behind haunted objects. Though dramatized, the core horror remains. Robert isn't just a doll, he's a warning. Today, he's one of the most feared artifacts in paranormal circles, compared to Annabelle and the Dybbuk box. Forums and dark web threads dedicate entire pages to experiences, theories, and personal links to life. Many believe Robert is more than haunted. Some say he's a beacon, that he doesn't just contain a spirit, but attracts entities to himself. An anchor, a vessel, perhaps even a guardian of something darker. One thing is certain, those who meet Robert never forget him. Since Robert arrived at the East Martello Museum, he's attracted more than curious tourists. He's become an obsession for paranormal experts. Veteran investigators report that Robert's energy is unlike anything they've encountered. During EVP, electronic voice phenomena sessions, they've captured low whispers, sometimes in English, other times in indecipherable tongues. Some claim to have heard their names spoken before ever introducing themselves. EMF, electromagnetic field detectors, spike near the glass case. Batteries drain without warning. Motion sensors trip with no one around. Thermal cameras detect heat signatures that vanish as soon as they appear. In 2009, a British team spent the night locked in with Robert. At 3:17 a.m., the security footage blacked out for 66 seconds. When the feed returned, a chair had been moved 6 feet without a sound. One investigator woke up with claw marks on his forearm, 3 lines, fresh and bleeding. He swore he had locked the door. Another claimed to see Robert blink, not once, but twice. The footage, reviewed frame by frame, shows one disturbing moment. Robert's eyes fully closed, then opened. Mediums and psychics often refused to enter the exhibit room. One collapsed, claiming to have seen a child with no eyes and a gaping smile. Others say Robert emits a cold, suffocating presence. A Canadian spiritualist described him as a soul trap, a vessel meant not just to house a spirit, but to pull others in. She warned that looking into Robert's eyes too long was like inviting something in. The museum staff report that Robert seems to respond to certain people more than others. Some receive no reaction, others walk away, sick, anxious, or convinced they're being followed. Robert may be just a doll, but the evidence says otherwise. If you think this is all just folklore, remember, Robert has faced thousands of visitors, and many walked away with their lives turned upside down. You can laugh, you can doubt, but there's one simple rule when visiting Robert at the museum. Always ask permission before taking a photo, and always say thank you, because in the end, you never know if those button eyes are still watching you. This was another episode of Archivos do Medo. If you enjoyed it, like the video, share it with someone brave enough to face the supernatural, and subscribe to the channel, because fear never takes a vacation.